Fontana believes most business events fail long before anyone enters the room because they prioritize attendance over the right audience. He is Chief Revenue Officer at Amzai and Chief Growth Officer at Buyer Foresight. And Mr. Joe Fontana helps B2B brands turn executive conversations into trust, pipeline, and revenue. We're here on the Marketer of the Day podcast with Robert Plank. We're brought to you by dfypodcast.com. We handle the back end of your podcast. That way you can focus on the interview. And the interview that we're focusing on today is just how events go wrong and what Joe has figured out and how he's turned it into an amazing, exciting business that he's going to tell us all about, where he helps people, grows businesses, and so much more. So, Mr. Joe, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, my man. Great introduction. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. You humble me. Flattery will get you everywhere. And so I have my introduction.
That's the name of the game.
Well, and in your own words, like, what are you all about? What should we know?
What should you know? I have been building sales orgs out for over 30 years. And one thing I've learned after having been on thousands of sales conversations myself, having managed sales teams and being a part of their conversations, is exactly that. Conversations move pipelines, not pitches, not decks, not case studies. They have their place, they play their role, but sales is still a series of conversations that moves somebody from awareness to consideration. And the events that I build for companies now are seeing a golden era because the playing field has been leveled by AI. There is a low bar of trash out there. Buyers are aware of it. Buyers avoid it because they're looking now for authentic conversations with the companies that they're interested in doing business with. And that's what I foster and build. Companies come to me because they want authentic conversations, not pitches, not decks, not opportunities to do dog and ponies. They want to talk to their prospects. They want to hear these challenges for themselves, and they want to use these conversations as the foundation for things that happen in the future.
Very nice. So
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. 9:30 on a Wednesday morning.
Well, you can't fake it, can you? Like, you can fake with AI, like you can, do the writing and the AI can generate your slides and it can even like make the videos. But hey, in person, those conversations, the active listening, it can't duplicate that. And I'm curious to find out from you, like, what's happened to events in the past like 15 years? Because you feel like with like smartphones and Wi-Fi and cellular service everywhere and streaming, and then there was like pandemic era, it felt like it's just like one blow after another to live events, and it just seems like so much changes like every few years, and it seems like such an uphill climb compared to maybe the good old days. But what do you think?
Hey, what worked in the good old days still works now. Having dinner, having a conversation, having that one-on-one or one-to-few interaction around pain. Deals used to get closed at dinners because bonds were formed. Relationships, trust was built. And that hasn't changed. Can you find it at a large conference with 5,000 people attending? Yes, if you work extremely hard at it. Can you find it with a webinar with hundreds of people? Yeah, if you really know what you're doing and know what post-event follow-up looks like. But you'll never see the success that you see with these one-to-few events, especially when the effort and the time and the knowledge around best practices are put into play and used, and you don't cut corners. And people cut corners all the time. A lot of people come to me because they've tried it themselves. And when they try it themselves, it's all about them. The prospect doesn't care about you. They care about themselves. And the only time you come into that equation, seller, is if this guy's going to cost me my job. Yeah, this sounds good. This data is impressive. My research, says I should be talking to this organization. But the three people I'm interacting with sound like they share the same brain. People used to buy from people they like. They now buy from people they trust. The events that I put on give them that opportunity to see for themselves whether this organization is worthy of even building that trust in the first place. And those are opportunities that are invaluable. They can be priceless for your rev. They can be priceless for the growth of your company, for the deals that you close, the size, to say nothing of the rapport that's built with a prospect that turns that prospect into a customer and turns that customer into a client, turns that client into a walking, talking advocate for you. But it's easy to cut corners. It's easy to make it about yourself. It's easy to drive your agenda. And like Yoda said, that is why you fail.
Amazing. Well, this is
Star Wars,
a lot of us want.
binging with my son all week. What was that?
This is what a lot of us want, right? I can understand the frustration of the cutting corners and the appeal of these one to few events. So what drives you crazy? Like when you say sometimes people run events like these and they fail, like where do they mess it up and how is your way better?
They're talking at their prospects, not to them. Okay. At some point, either during registration or the event themselves, they'll want that individual to look at something, to review something, to provide their opinion on something. I don't. I know the pain is all I need. I know this pain resonates with you. I know that this pain has enough energy around it to drive you literally and figuratively an hour out of your way to sit down at a random restaurant with 10 total strangers.
Okay.
Companies get it wrong because they make it about themselves. They start to talk at these people instead of to them. It's about what they want to accomplish, not what the prospect wants to accomplish. It's their agenda, not the other way around. With my clients and our events, it's this prospect's agenda. This prospect is at the stage where they're willing to have a conversation. If they were at any other stage, this prospect would be acting differently. If this prospect was ready to buy, they wouldn't need to come to this event. If this prospect was able or willing to start having the internal conversations with the buying committee that could jeopardize their career, they would not be at this event. They would be doing something else. There'd be another motion in play. Or this event, in what it is part of that motion. People go wrong because they put their own expectations. They start pitching at these events. They start sharing features. They start talking benefits. They're dying to open a deck just to show you how I solved the specific problem you just said, instead of continuing to listen through that pain, to find that common ground where that bond is formed, where you set the cement for a relationship that could last your entire tenure at that organization. To say nothing of your career, because if you do it right, that guy will follow you into a flame, to say nothing of following you to your next employer. But they make it all about them. They can't help themselves. They're sellers, and they're driven by that sales mentality. So organizations that work with me are also open-minded enough to know there's a better and a different way. And yes, it requires a little bit more lifting, and it's a higher peak to climb. But you walk away with it having pipeline, or at least the seeds of a pipeline. You're laying the right seeds in the right field with the right fertilizer. It's getting watered properly. That's what the seller wants. That's what the seller needs. If the seller stops being their own worst enemy, I get them there. But they can't help themselves. Show up at the dinner. Hey, what should we do with these case studies? Burn them in that fireplace. Hey, what should I do with this little deck that we put together? Give it to the chef so they can throw it in the oven. Does anybody have a shredder here? They hate it. Because they can't help themselves. They, again, are so focused on what they want that they forget why their prospect is there. And their prospect is there to have a conversation with his peers around a pain point and nothing else. So own that dynamic.
Amazing. And
we help them own that dynamic.
Yeah.
So before the event, we help get the intel that they need to ask the right questions. So if I've done research before you even walk in the room, Robert, on what makes you tick, and develop 2 questions around it, I know I'm going to get your interaction, or at least see the look on your face to when I talk to this guy a week from now, I know I can drive this point home with him further. We can continue a conversation he's too scared to have with 10 other people. But again, requires lifting, requires work, requires research.
Yeah. So I could see how it's like a slower way of going about it to like warm people up, but it ends up being like more predictable, repeatable, right? Like a kind of like a better design system that's based less
Simple
on luck.
scales, fancy fails. Simple scales, fancy fails.
Nice.
I have clients where tomorrow, because Thursdays are our most popular days for dinner based on tons of research, I have clients that have their teams scattered across the globe, each of them sitting down for dinner with their prospects,
Whoa.
trained on what to say and how to say it and how to act and what not to do. Again, I post about this regularly. I think I did it earlier this week. Shut your mouth. Tape it shut if you have to. You're here to listen. And you're going to hear things they would never share with you because they're not sharing it with you. They're sharing it with their peers. Oh, and by the way, they got 2 martinis in them. So they're super sharing with their peers. Last thing they want to be reminded is that a seller's in the room. Yeah, you're a lion seller, but you're watching those gazelles from a hilltop. You don't want them to know that they know you're there. And they see you, but they're saying, he can't hear us. He can't run that, but we'll be gone by the time he shows up. So does that lion try to, force himself on that herd, end up with nothing but short breath? Or does that lion sit there and watches how the herd works, sees the weak ones, and sees how to position himself to have success? And that's the difference between a seller who comes in with their own agenda and a seller who realizes this story hasn't been written yet.
Well, very cool.
My
Can
story,
you help
I'm
me?
sticking to it.
Yeah. I love your storytelling and your metaphoring. And so can you help me like picture what this is like? Because you given some tidbits, right? You say like there's like a dinner, but like what size
So
is
here's
it?
how it
Where is
works
it? How do you find the people and for what? Yeah.
So a client comes to me, let's say they're in cybersec. We need to be in a room with AppSec engineers, fraud detection, whatever the case may be. First thing we're doing is looking at who are the companies you want to do business with? Who is your sales team currently targeting and engaging with? Great. Who are the roles and responsibilities of these individuals? Now, I need to know more about the responsibility than the role or the title, because as a marketer yourself, Robert, 2 different companies, same title, can be 2 different things. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Amzai and Buyer Foresight, and I find myself on the phone 8 hours a day. So my definition of CMO is far different than your definition of CMO. So we want to know those roles. But then we want our client to take a step back, look at their prospect from the lens of what makes this guy sweat the bed at 4 a.m. Not what feature will they be most interested in, what benefit is going to bring them the most value, not where they sit in Gartner's Magic Quadrant. They don't care about the Business Insider awards you've just been given. It's what makes this guy, gal, sweat the bed at 4 a.m. What makes them dread this part of their work. Once we find that, we just bake out 6 or 7 questions. And then I do all the work. I have all the messaging, LinkedIn, the DMs, telephone calls, the emails that I know work because I do this hundreds, if not thousands of times a year. And the messaging is all about my prospect. It's 70 words. It's to the point. I know this makes you shit the bed. Do you want to talk diapers or dude wipes on Tuesday, August 3rd? Because I got 10 other guys that have the same problem. Pardon me my language. But we all have the same problem. We'd like you to get in a room with this company and just talk through it. We're not going to pitch you. There's going to be no decks. By the way, here are 5,000 examples of events we did where it's just been conversations. And then it's a matter of keeping that individual engaged from that point till the point they show up. And it's not being persistent. It's not asking anything of them. My follow-up notes are, hey, Robert, just a reminder, 2 weeks, this event. If anything changes, let me know. Rob, the event's coming in 2 days. You haven't requested an Uber or Lyft. Do you need one? Where other companies get it wrong. Hey, prior to attending that event on Tuesday, the 3rd of August, Do you mind giving us your thoughts on this? We just opened this whole new think tank. We have a case study. We have this collateral. We have that collateral. We'd love your thoughts. The gig is up. Your buyer is open to a conversation. That does not, by their very nature, make them stupid. Oh, we're just having a dinner, but read my case study. We're just having a dinner, but tell me what you think of this video. We're just having a dinner. We'd love your thoughts on the Loom where we show you our demo. They're not coming. You're going from 20 registrations to 3 people showing up. Guarantee it. They show up. There's no, I knew this was going to happen. I knew they were going to pitch me. I knew this guy was going to open a deck. I could see it in his eyes when he looked at his computer and saw me looking at it. He knew it. Nope. Just a nice conversation. Oh, and they want to talk to me again next week. This is great. I'd love to talk to these guys again. Sure, bring that kid who sells but didn't say a word. How polite he was. Sat next to me the whole night. Didn't try to pitch me anything. We have the same kind of dog. Mm-hmm. Our kids are 2 school districts apart. Yeah, I'd love to continue that conversation. Thanks for even thinking of me.
Sounds
like a nice
real
way easy. To stand out. Very, very simple, but there is nothing easy about anything I just said.
Right.
Nothing there is easy. But people see a simple process and assume it's easy. They see a simple process and they're like, this is too simple to be good. I can make it better. But when my competitors are like, I can make it better, please knock yourself out. I'll be talking to your clients in 6 months because they don't need better. They need simple. They need effective. They need pipeline. They need deals. They need a funnel. Because if they can't produce one, it's not the seller who gets canned. It's not the seller who's talking about their amazing journey at Data Quad coming to a sad end and that they're excited for their new adventure. Marketers always take the fall for garbage sellers.
This is very cool. And I'm curious about like the energy aspect of it, because I know like I only a few years ago began thinking in terms of pipeline, right? Like sometimes I'd luck out, people would come to me, but then thinking like, I have meetings and that leads to other meetings and building a relationship. But sometimes when I look at my calendar and I'm like, well, I've got 5 meetings of this type and 4 meetings of that type, let alone an in-person thing, I can see how someone's like objection to doing this would say like, I get exhausted, or how do I keep up the energy, or how do I like turn on the bright light bulb the way you do? So
what energy do you need for a conversation? You're sitting there and you're talking, and most of the time you're listening. If you don't have the energy to listen, you don't have the energy to be employed here. This is one of the best buyer's markets for employees ever. You don't want to do the little things? Bye. Sayonara. Bon voyage. Right? What else does Bugs Bunny say when he's laughing as you're about to sail off a cliff?
But I mean, when you talk about like being on the phone for 8 hours, don't you have some of those days when you need some techniques or you need some ways to get yourself alive?
Yeah, of course you do. I mean, I've been doing this now 35 years, so the ways I motivate myself are far different than the way young kids are going to motivate themselves. But I also think that motivation by its very nature is fleeting. It's a fair weather friend. Accountability is what rules the day. I speak to it all the time. I wrote a book called Fred Flintstone Selling in a George Jetson World. And the very theme of the book is the accountability required to own the technology so that it actually drives effective results and doesn't burn your reputation or your brand to the ground. And every person seeing this, listening to this, you, Robert, I'm sure, are sitting right now in DMs, emails, or texts that were written like trash.
Yeah.
By someone who was given an exceptional tool but doesn't have the judgment to use it properly. You can motivate yourself to get on any call, but to sustain a relationship takes accountability, takes ownership. I can motivate any group to run through a wall in 90 seconds. Or you can give me 90 minutes and I can make them accountable for the next year. What do you want?
long term, next year.
Accountability rules the day. Let's apply it to events. Everybody shows up, everybody's having conversations, good old time. Nobody bothers to do effective follow-up. They wait 3-4 days. The SDR does it. Some person they never met is reaching out to have a phone call. Hey, Joe, event was great. Vibes were awesome. We all had a great time, but nobody closed the deal. And then there's my way. Yeah, Joe, you berated me. You shamed me into doing it this way. You forced us to think about it from a different perspective. And we all had a sweat over it. But I got pipeline. You know I'm excited. The Italian's coming out. I'm talking with my hands. I've been sitting on them for the last 15 minutes. Because I see it wrong every day. I see marketers losing their jobs for it every day. I see clients that come to me and we don't know what we're doing. And the moment I tell them what right looks like, they suddenly have an opinion. I tell them, it's your money. I'll do what you tell me to do. But I'll also point out, here's mile marker 1 when you're determining why this event failed. Hey, remember we had mile marker 1 2 weeks ago? This is mile marker 2. This is another thing I want you to keep in mind when this event is a failure 90 days from now. But it's not a failure. You have a room filled up. Yeah, I got a room filled up. I have A plus B, but C equals U. And you're not doing what you need to do for this equation to work itself out. Now you know why I have somebody tutor my son in algebra and geometry, because I know that that's not even a math equation that makes sense. But neither does it when my client decides, yeah, there are best practices, but then there's our way. Again, very simple. And because it's very simple, people need to show how smart they are by how they can make it effective. This model worked in the 50s. This model worked in the 60s. This model was not going to cover off the ball in the 70s and the 80s. This model closed massive deals in the 90s. We took this model and made it virtual because nobody wanted to step out of their house in the 2020s. And yet here we are, working like a charm, because sales has always been and always shall be a series of conversations and communication that drives you from awareness to consideration, from life as it is today to life as it can be. And you can have AI to educate. You can have the internet and tools and communities and forums to educate you. And you can have all the answers. But there's going to come a time when you're going to have to look somebody in the face and measure up whether or not, like I said earlier, is this guy getting me fired? Is this guy my route to the C-suite? Is this guy going to be the reason why my 50, 80, 90,000 shares vest when this company goes public? And these are facts. This is what your buyer thinks. And if you think they're more concerned with your feature and benefit, that's anecdotal. And because it's anecdotal and you focus on it like it's what drives, that's why your messaging, your events, your interactions fall flat. But what do I know? I only do this 700-800 times a year. We've only been doing this since 2014. What do I know?
This is making a lot of sense, and I can see how there are lots of ways to go wrong, and you have like a plan, a strategy, a system. And I'm curious just about, you've educated us so much, but you're the star of the show here, Mr. Joe. So do you think in this conversation we're having about these amazing events you run and the do's and don'ts and et cetera, do you think there might be a missing question that I should be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
No, I mean, No, but you did make a great point, just a moment ago. There's 1, 2, 3 ways to do events right. There are thousands of ways to do events wrong. What question would you ask me? I don't have a clue. I mean, you asked a lot of good questions. I talk like I'm paid by the syllable. I can say this: if you're building events, if you're building pipeline, if you're trying to drive conversations and you're stumped or falling flat, have no fear. Shoot me a DM. You'll find over a 30-minute conversation. Just a few tidbits I show can make an impressive change in the way that you think or you act or you move through these events. My content speaks for itself when you're not caught up in all my dumb dad jokes.
But you're a package deal. That's part of your personality. The same way that people are messy, right? You have like these like prospects you want to close. They're not just like cardboard one-dimensional characters. They have the minutia to them. So they're people. So treat them like that. And so if you say send me this DM, where should someone go about that? What are some next steps here if someone wants to learn more, continue the conversation?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. Joe Fontana, voted best CMO in the nation by my son. There is a book and appointment tab. You can always shoot me a DM. You can drop 15 minutes into my calendar. Always happy to have a conversation. You will not find yourself in a sequence or a cadence following that conversation. There's no obligation. If you're a marketer or a senior sales leader and you want to see what right looks like, every month I host a series of chocolate tastings for my prospects, which is a format we would build for them and their prospects. So I host it for B2B tech marketers, marketers in the legal field, and marketers that work with associations or AMCs. So they get the chance to come to a chocolate tasting. So we spend about 30 minutes on a virtual chocolate tasting. Please don't be like me and eat it the day before. Be patient, show discipline, wait for my chocolatier to walk you through the amazing box we've delivered to your doorstep. And once everybody's had their share of dark chocolate, cacao, apricot spread, white chocolate, we start having a conversation around things I know matter to my clients and prospects. Sales and marketing alignment for B2B tech events, how to work through the expectations that partners have for legal events, how to drive membership in a world where your members can get everything you're sharing for free online for associations. And at no time do I pitch them. To at no point am I asking them to look through gated collateral or give their thoughts on a case study. I'm having a conversation with them the same way they would have conversations with their prospects. So it's a chance for my prospects to see exactly what their prospects would go through, how they're targeted, why they're targeted. Because everybody that attends those events, if I'm reaching out to you to attend that event, my team's reaching out to you to attend that event, it's because I have worked in your space. I have worked with your competitors. The people that have you in a cold sweat are having their pipeline built by me. So I know I can do work in your industry. I know how to get them in a room, how to get success out of them. The same way, you know who your prospect is and why you can impress the hell out of them and why you're only focusing on those 300 accounts. And the same way we would figure out a content or a topic that would drive a conversation with your prospects, I already know what my prospects want to talk about. So that's the topic of conversation. And just like a smart team would have a follow-up call with the subject matter expert, I'm doing the same thing. So I hosted a chocolate tasting on the 23rd of July. Last week and this week, everybody that I'm talking to attended that event. Would love your feedback. What do you wish you would have learned? What were your takeaways? And they all ask me, what do you do, Joe? I do what you just walked through. For those of you like me that have gray hair and you're long in the tooth, it's like the Honda Accord commercials from the 80s and 90s, the car that sells itself. I don't need to pitch you. I don't need to show you the data up front. Come see the event for yourself, see what your prospects would go through, and you'll know why I bring value to the table. Okay, I mean, I didn't want to pitch first thing in the morning, but you gave me no choice, Robert. I can't help it. Yeah, exactly. The seller in me never dies. So if anything, it's a nice benefit to the calls I have later this morning because I'm all pitched out, Robert. I'm all pitched out.
There you go. You got it worked out on me. Well, this is a much better way of going about the sales path, right? As if someone out there is really frustrated, this is a much better way of doing it. And so we say, look up Joe Fontana on LinkedIn. And then I also can't help but plug the website, amzai.events. That way, at least we'll have a link under the podcast so people can find out more. But You say you really want people to find you on LinkedIn. That's linkedin.com/in/Joe-Fontana75 and send that DM, book that call, and find out about some possibilities. But before I let you go, Mr. Joe Fontana, it's time for the scary part of the podcast where I try to stump you, I try to put you on the spot by asking about a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served you. So what comes to mind as far as a fun or interesting quote or lesson?
A fun or interesting quote or lesson. The first lesson I ever learned in sales: listen more and talk less. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and that has never changed. No matter what tool, what technology, what you're doing, whatever groundbreaking method you think you're bringing to the table, listen more, talk less.
Very wise. And you'll get nuggets like that and more in the amazing book, Fred Flintstone Selling in a George Jetson World. All I really need to know about sales I learned from Fred Flintstone. But where we really want you to go is LinkedIn, Joe Fontana. Start that conversation. Thanks for being generous with your time and super energetic and super smart. I'm really glad that we had this conversation, Mr. Joe. So thank you.
Pleasure was all mine, my man. Happy to do this anytime. You're the best. Thanks for having me.